Alright, welcome to episode 108 of What Civilization Started Over. Yeah, I've been making loads of the alternate Spain ones because that's really cool and interesting. And I get to make weird alternate countries. Anyway, in the last episode of this series, which is the one that is the most interesting, I would say, out of the two, we saw a civil war occur in Italy in which the country had a big fight and then the military dictatorship came back. And now it's like you just fought for democracy and then you just threw that away, so that was good. Poland went to war with Eastern Germany, which is now just Germany, and they won that, so they took a lot of land, mostly the ethnic Polish land. The region map is not updated, but you can kind of see, here's all the ethnic Polish land that wasn't Germany, so they didn't take this bit, but that's fine, and they took this bit, which was full of Germans, but it's okay. It all kind of matches, and maybe some industrial stuff, and I don't care, I just want to make goodish borders. And then a couple of other things happened, but I don't remember all of those. Lots of cool countries as well. Brazil invaded the Amazon rainforest. I think that was the first event following World War IV. And also the Civil War in Andalusia, in which the Orange Country broke away, got a military dictatorship, and then joined the Italian alliance. So that's all pretty good. And these three formed their own military alliance. Anyway, where do you want to go now? I don't know. There's quite a few places we can go. But I feel like first thing we need to head. First thing we're gonna head over to Germany because they're gonna move their capital city. Number one, it looks weird, and number two, it's just kind of not in a great spot. So they're gonna put it over here in this city and take it as far away as they can. No, but still in Eastern Germany because as far away as they can is like up here or down here. Just get it away from the poles a little bit, but keep it in kind of core-ish German territory. So that's what they do. And now they have a new capital city. It's not that bad, really. It's still pretty Germany. I mean, all of it is German. This is a very ethnic German country. I don't know if I love how it looks, though. I might just put it in this one. And then, shush. I like how that looks more. Anyway, Poland. Yeah, they definitely have a reason to be afraid of Poland. As already in today's episode, they're going to be invading another country. And this time, it's this weird Latvian, Lithuanian one up here. I don't know, they're just chilling, and I quite like them. They've got a cool colour I don't use very much. But yeah, they're not very strong. Ideologically, what are they? Probably. Yeah, they're a full democracy, which is pretty good. And they're a centre-left democracy, which is not what Poland is. Anyway, their troops are going to move up here on the western side and pretty quickly capture the major coastal city before moving into the Gulf of Riga and capturing what is effectively Riga. And after that, they block them off from the coast, starve some people, and like in a few months, they've already taken over the country. If even a few months, this country's really not that strong. It's quite flat as well, so it would probably fall quite quickly. And now Poland's borders look weird, and that's because of this bit here. So if you could just take that, I mean, not with that line, but you see the idea. Anyway, and where do you want to go next? Good question. Let's go over here to China because China formed this big empire during the war. It's a very democratic country. It's just kind of not very united because they had 20 or so years like before this where they were all their own countries and they had their own governments and they were developing their own cultures and festivals and important rich people and all these government things, and it's kind of hard to assimilate all this. And for that reason, 5 countries will be leaving the Chinese Union. Okay, so the first two should both be pretty familiar faces. It's going to be the nation of Guangxi. So apparently they don't get all their territory, and that kind of sucks. Why don't you have that bit? Weird. Anyway, Guangxi is back, and they've got all of this cool territory, so that looks pretty dope. And they also get the island which they owned, Hainan. And they get old couple cities back. However, their old country didn't used to look like this. So wait. Their old country didn't used to look like this. It was actually, in its most recent form, 2 different countries. That was how it was after the breakup of China. You got a Yunnan and then this is Guangxi, something like that. Anyway, their nation looks a bit like this, and they're just gonna shift the border slightly to like new ethnic stuff or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but I just want to make it look not horrible. Basically, Guangxi got some other lands from I think the Pink Country during the end of World War IV. So they gave up this land because of ethnic stuff. It doesn't really matter. I just want the borders to not look absolutely horrible. Anyway, we have both of these countries back now, and you also need a capital city, so let's give you that. It looks like this Yunnan country is quite a lot bigger, which they are, but they're not richer at all. This country's got a lot more wealth. So yeah, they're back, and they're both really, really good friends. They have effectively the same ethnic group, so maybe they shouldn't have changed their borders, but it doesn't matter. And yeah, Guangxi kind of got invaded by Indochina during the interwar period because of because of their friendship with this guy. So like, you suck for invading my friend in Guangxi, and Indochina was like, you know what, I'm gonna invade you too. So that happened. Anyway, both back. That's cool. Let's go to our next one, and it's actually going to be a country who got conquered by the Chinese or the Koreans, but they weren't held by the Koreans for that long. It's Taiwan. So they're gonna return. Taiwan's kind of annoyed at what China did because China, they let this country have the islands because they used to own all these islands, but then they just gave them back. Oh, not gave them back. They just gave them to that country to make it like stronger or some weird ethnic stuff, whatever. I don't know. This country is now very annoyed about that. It's like you didn't even get a say in that, China. Like a northern government just decided what we should do with our islands, and they're kind of annoyed about that. But also, their occupation by the Koreans did change them, and they kind of just distanced, like, number one, the north, and also the Chinese mainland. They're quite a lot like this stuff, but definitely not this stuff. This is still very separate. And then the final two are going to be over here. So we see this green country return, pretty random and not very strong country, and then even more random and not very strong country over here in the grey country. So you're back. And now China looks something like this, which is not amazing, but it's what we've got. Ultimately, the country is just kind of not meant to stay together, and the government's fine with that because the country fell apart before because it wasn't really meant to exist, and they decided to do that and destroy the country. So all these states and all nations within the country have their own right to leave. So that's kind of fun, I suppose. And yeah, China got slightly weaker. Speaking of weaker countries, not only are there weaker countries, there's also stronger countries, and for that reason we're doing power rankings. This episode will end in 2032, so I might just change that. 2032, that's a lot of fun. Let me just... so despite everything, Italy is still number 1 in the world, number 2 is still the Adriatic country, and number 3 is still China. Number 4 goes to the Norwegians, they're pretty strong and cool. Number 5 is Morocco, they've built up a lot of power. Number 6 is Britain, not Brazil, sorry. Tibet is number 7, Poland is number 8, although the conquests have moved them up considerably. And number 9 is Northern Brazil, and number 10 is Western Australia. I don't think this has changed from last time, but there you go, there's power rankings. Anyway, we actually need to head to South America now, but it's not for a war, unless you count civil wars as wars, because 2 countries in the Americas will be changing their ideology, and it's both of these monarchist countries. So they've existed since 1928, which is about a century ago. And unfortunately for both these countries, their king is going to get overthrown. There's a lot of ideological turmoil at this point in the world, and that's kind of expressing itself here because people don't believe that their country should have a king. And it's kind of just remnants of the old colonizers, where like royal people took over the country, but then the royal people have been born here and were of this country's ethnicity, and then they just stayed, and it was kind of weird. But they're both going to get overthrown, and a lot of other countries are going to try and influence them. For example, in this country, there's a lot of influence going towards them from the countries around them, in like Brazil and these 3, and this one, and basically, there's a violent revolution which overthrows the king, and a military dictatorship is put in place. Also over here in the Nicaraguan country, there's a few interesting ideologies around them. There's 2 democracies up here, Cuba's oligarchy, Panama's an oligarchy, and then there's a couple oligarchies and dictatorships up here. So it's all a big mess in this region, and this country is even more of a mess in its civil war than the other country. And also apparently they don't have like any cities. Why are you so poor? I should update the Americas really. They don't really have enough stuff, but I don't really think about it because I don't do a whole lot with the entire Western Hemisphere yet. There will be more for this area in the future. Anyway, this country, I'm not entirely sure what they turn to, but it's probably oligarchy, to be honest. We'll revisit them maybe one time in the future eventually, but probably not. So there you go. That's nice. They can head over to a more interesting part of the world, leaving the Americas. I actually need to head over here to West Africa. I forgot where I needed to go, so I had to pause it and kind of think, like, what do I need to do now? But yeah, Ghana is of course back on the move, and this time they're going to be invading this orange guy next to them. The orange country hasn't done anything, and for that reason, I'm getting rid of them. And they are a centre-right democracy, whilst Ghana is a military dictatorship. I can't say it. And almost everyone here in West Africa is apparently autocratic, apart from YouTube, so that's nice. Anyway, yeah, you're getting destroyed today for doing not enough. Anyway, the city over here in the border is taken, and Ghanaian troops immediately start to push towards the central core territory around whatever river bit this is, so that's fun. They start to move in around this city, and they manage to take this one before closing in on the capital, which looks very, very crumpled. Crumpled? What the hell am I even saying? Anyway, both cities are captured because this country is not very strong, and the Nigerians think about invading, and then Ghana's like, don't you do it. Don't you do it. This is my land, you scumbag. So they do that, they take over the entire coast, and they're just a tiny bit left of the centre, and nothing's going on there, so they just surrender. And that was a wise, clever decision. So goodbye, Orange Country. I won't really miss you that much by then. And Ghana is kind of reforming the ancient country, probably past that now. They have a pretty massive nation, and that's nice for them. Anyway, we need to head over to the autocracy alliance layer, because we're going to alliances. Both these countries will be rejoining the Diamond Alliance with all four other guys. And also, this guy is leaving. The Central Asian country is going to finally make its exit of its military alliance. They got pulled into World War IV, and they didn't really need to do anything. They sent troops to fight in the Middle East and in Asia, well, East Asia, but it just wasn't important to them, and they're getting brought into wars that are affecting the entire other side of their continent. You know, Central Asia is a lot more peaceful. There's no Arabic Union, there's no Russia. The Ganjati country is pretty nice, and they're still friendly with these countries. They just don't really need to be in the alliance anymore, so they're gonna leave that. But the rest of the alliances, I think stay the same. So that's all good. Economic alliances, I don't know. This one's probably still staying. Yeah, I've not updated China. They're fine. They'll be okay. European, there's no economic alliances here, and in Africa, the Moroccan economic alliance is getting more and more dominant because Carthage isn't doing anything, and Morocco is one of the strongest countries in the entire world. So that's fun. Anyway, let's go over to the Ganjati country, who I just said wasn't that hostile, but today they're actually going to be doing something quite hostile, which is invading the Rhodesian country, who had a bit of an interesting president come in, who said some offensive things to their country, and also they want access to the coast over here. So basically, this country, they have some weird radical stuff going on. Ideologically, the world is in loads of turmoil, and we'll focus on that more in a second. But yeah, weird things happening here. The world's not really happy about what they're doing, but equally, the world can't do very much about it, because this is the second strongest country in the world, and Italy kind of supports this, because Italy's a military dictatorship now, so meh. And not many countries really care about them. They're ethnically quite similar to the yellow country, but the yellow country's not going to do anything either, so we just see the obliteration of this nation, and in a way things become better for them, because they now live in the Ganjati country, so it's actually not that bad if you think about it. And there you go, the Ganjati country now looks kind of weirder, but it's all fine. Anyway, speaking of the ideology stuff, we need to head over here to Hijaz, because something interesting just happened in Hijaz, and that is that their religion just changed some stuff in the religious texts, and you shouldn't really change some stuff in the religious text. But the people here are so fanatic, they don't even care, and we have this new brown ideology rise up in the Hijaz nation. And what's that, you may ask? What is weird brown ideology? Well, what am I saying? Brown ideology is fascism. This world has finally encountered fascism. There hasn't really been many radical ideologies apart from Frangalism, which still survives here. But it's not really radical, it's just kind of weird. And yeah, this is actual radical ideology in Hijaz, and the government has some pretty crazy ideas about what to do with this new radical ideology. However, immediately it does some weird stuff to the country, and they force people to do things, and the government's got lots more power. And basically, loads of other countries around the world see this and go, "We should maybe do that." I don't know. I'm just thinking, maybe that would be good for our country. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it in today's episode. In the next episode, we're going to focus more on Hijaz and what this ideology does to the entire world, because it will change things quite drastically. Anyway, thanks for watching, subscribe, and have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.